guys.
That's actually a good way to let us know. Just flicker that a few times. It's like dimming the house lights at a theater before a play or a movie. You now know the show has started. Look at us. It's all four, and we have a first. Let's talk about it next. DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. It is Saturday. It is game day. This is the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. We're live from the lounge studio. Craig Ludwig, Sean Shapiro. I'm Owen Newkirk. Our producer, John, is moving, but he's here, and he is not wearing Bruins gear. He is wearing a Red Sox hat, though, so staying true to his roots. There it is. And we also welcome in the fourth member of our team who is on location at Amalie Arena. Look who it is. It's our very own Sam Nestler on his first ever NHL road trip. Sam, how's it so far?
Fantastic. I got to say, this is actually my first time in Florida ever, too. I don't know how that's possible, but it's a couple of big ones on the bucket
Were you a
list for
shut-in
me, so.
as a kid? Were you one of them shut-ins? Like, they just lock you and leave?
So I've been to 39 states, but somehow never to Florida. So not sure how that works, but it's a fantastic arena, man. The outdoor area here, they get here early. They're loud. They got performances going on outside, just food. It's a really, really exciting area around here. So far, so good.
So this is arena 44. This is state 40 for you. You're now at 40 of the 50?
40. Okay. Yep.
He's got me beat. I think I'm probably in the 30s. I haven't counted up in a while, so you've been all over the place.
I don't want to count. I don't want to do it because
I bet you've hit most of them, especially either in your hockey travels or on a motorcycle.
you know what? I don't sightsee and I don't go to arenas.
You did when you played.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I wouldn't be.
He's just
It's the same way he was chuckling yesterday.
I bet he was. He was happy to be here.
He's just like a little kid yesterday at the alumni skate. Yeah, no, I don't sightsee. Like, I sightsee different kind of
Point
venues.
A to point B.
I have other types of venues I like to sightsee.
Likes to visit the dive bars of America.
I do.
That would be. I bet you hit quite a few of those.
I follow a couple guys. That's all they do on I don't know, some Twitter thing or something like that, and it's a dive bar. That's what it's called. So you and they go in, and they film it, and so I write them down, and we go there.
I bet you and Sam go to different places.
Scott Burnside got into the Hockey Hall of Fame by just going to dive bars. So
he knows all the spots. By the way, we'll get Scott on the show at some point because I wanted to bring him on and celebrate him getting into the Hall of Fame. He's used to cover the Stars. He's still doing stuff covering the Kings. He's got his own Substack. Lots of stuff going on. I was texting him with the other day, so we'll definitely get Scotty on at some point. Because it will be a lot of fun to celebrate that. And I'd love for you guys to compare notes because I hear he's got the best Rolodex of travel plans of NHL writers in the league.
One year on the beat with Scotty prepped my body for anything I ever needed to face in the NHL travel world.
Just imagine if Luddy and Scott got into a trip at this. That would be trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You guys would be a lot of fun. All right, let's get to Sam because he's got warm-ups going on and he's got to get out of here. Sam, what's the news from Tampa?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Nils Lundqvist is still out. The lower body injury, he did skate at morning skate this morning as an optional morning skate. Only about 10 guys probably skated. But Nils Lundqvist is out there doing a lot of skill work, a lot of single leg stuff, a lot of pivoting. So he's skating at least, which is a good sign because he missed practice, whatever that practice was 2 days ago. So that's good news for him. Other than that, Brendan Smith's going to come in for him. So we're excited to see Brendan Smith. He's been really good. He's really impressed me since basically that preseason game that Bloods just kept looking at me and saying, what are they doing back there? And since then, Brendan Smith's been really solid. And I'm just excited to see what how this defense handles this team, because we've talked so much about playing the elite teams. Well, we got two of them right now, not back-to-back nights, but back-to-back games here against Carolina and Tampa. Should be a really good test for Dallas.
What's the most exciting thing you've done so far on your first NHL road trip before we let you go?
Oh, boy. Well, I'm sitting next to Mike Heika, so that's always exciting. You know what? I went on the water taxi today. That was exhilarating. I think it moves at approximately 5 miles per hour. And so that was really exciting for me today. I don't know where it took me. I ended up further away from the hotel than I started, but it was a good time.
Did you get to the beach yet?
No, I haven't found it. Tomorrow is kind of my day to explore before my flight to Raleigh, so I'll try to find the beach.
All right, well, enjoy the game. We're going to talk to you afterwards, and we will be looking for your updates about warm-up lines if there's any changes.
Sounds good, boys. Enjoy the game.
Has water taxi and the word exhilarating ever been in the same sentence?
I don't think so. He's excited, isn't he?
Oh, he's like a kid in a candy store.
He is. He can't.
Good for him.
You watch. You'll get him through a couple of road trips, and all of a sudden he'll be the grizzled vet and start griping about travel and life on the road. But he looks like he's having a great time.
He hasn't complained once yet about Marriott points. So once that happens, then you know you've kind of. That's the. Never stay at a residence inn. You only get half points there. So.
All right, let's get to the meat of things here, guys. Jason Robertson, along with Rope Hintz and, of course, Wyatt Johnston, all broke out from their scoring droughts in a big way against the Sharks on Wednesday night. It was a talking point going into it. It was a talking point going out of it. And I think it's a big one for us to see if they can build off of that performance. Let's start with a clip from Matt Duchene, and then I want to get your thoughts about the whole topic of being in a scoring drought.
Robo gets a goal last game. Wyatt looks like he's starting to get a couple of more goals now. This team was so balanced with so much scoring depth last year. How hard is it to replicate that for a second season in a row?
Well, you're going to have ebbs and flows as a goal scorer. Power play, same thing. Offense is very hard to maintain. There's very few guys that do it, very few teams that do it. You see a power play one year be unbelievable, and the next year it's cold, and then all of a sudden it gets hot, and then you're, 2 days later you're lamenting it, and then then you're, oh my God, this is the best. You score, 3 or 4 in 2 games or something. So it's. That's hockey. That's why this is a maddening sport. We're not shooting on a basket like a basketball where there's no goalie and you make a good shot, it goes in. It's not that situation. You can do everything right and get stopped, and you can miss your shot and it can go in. I mean, it's a really hard thing. So these guys, I mean, they're too good of players to go through it for overly long. Hopefully, this is them breaking out. But I think the most important thing for any skilled player is just the process of your game and making sure that everything's in order. And if you're getting chances, eventually it's going to go once you're confident. And then once you get one, you're dancing. So that's the way it goes. And it's just about keeping the valleys as short as possible and the mountains as long as possible.
I thought that was interesting, Luds, from Duchene. Once you get one, you're dancing as a goal scorer. Can it be that simple?
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of times when guys are going through droughts and you have those games where you're up by a goal or two and the other team wants to pull a goal, you'll see coaches put that guy that's going through a drought out there. And it is as simple as just get one, empty netter, whatever it has to be. That's why we say all the time, if you're having that hard time, get to the front of the net and start driving there and take one off a skate or off your ankle or your butt or something like that, because they all count the same.
Sean, you saw Robertson struggle. You wrote about it last week.
Yeah.
Did you see enough good things on Wednesday to think that he's ready to break out?
Breakout? I don't know about breakout, but I think there's a lot of foundation there that he can work on. We talked about it in the show the other day about just kind of the arriving on time. But there's, to Lud's point about just getting the one goal and getting it going, all of a sudden everything – the other things start to become easier to build when you're not overly worried about that big zero or that drought that's hanging there. I've talked to guys on various NHL teams about how sometimes your game you can be playing really well and you're just not putting the puck in the net, and all of a sudden you start to question yourself all over the place. And so I think that's something I look at from a Jason Robertson perspective of it's his game. I thought his game was better Wednesday night. You put the puck in the net, you get a little bit more confidence. Can you now roll that forward? And I think I hope we see that tonight, because I think there is definitely a real chance for that.
The big showdown tonight is Andrei Vasilevsky versus Jake Oettinger. one of the best goalies in the world, if not the best in the world right now, against the guy who wants to take that title and build up to that. Oettinger is tied for second in the league in wins with 10. Only, as I said the other day, only Connor Hellebuyck has more with 12. Vasilevsky has 9. He's tied for fourth in wins, but he's tied for second with Hellebuyck in goals against average, 9th in save percentage, picked up his second shutout recently, and he is exceptional. Here's Jake about playing Andrei Vasilevsky.
I mean, he's in my opinion, he's the best goalie in the league, and he's been the best goalie in the league for a long period of time, in my opinion. So whenever you get to go against the best, it's always fun, and he's the guy I like watching the most, and the guy I look up to the most. So if you get a chance to play against him, you better be on your A game.
Sean, it's a big bar for Jake Oettinger to put for himself to try to live up to Vasilevsky, but it's one that he feels he can reach.
I mean, one of Jake's attitudes and one of the reasons he's had the success he's had in the NHL is he truly believes he can be in the best goalie in the world conversation. So these are the matchups that are big, and you go do that. I also can't help but chuckle when you talk about the best goalie in the league and the best goalie in the world right now, and you intentionally name Vasilevsky as opposed to the guy that you're trying to steal a job from for Team USA in February, because obviously there's Connor Hellebuyck. There's definitely a hard conversation about that right now between Vasilevsky and Hellebuyck. But one of the things I like about Oettinger and just talking to him is he really is he takes a lot of things from other goaltenders in his game. He is very stylistically, he's not the most unique guy, but there are small elements within Oettinger's game that you see. And there's things I've talked to Jake before about things he's taken from Vasilevsky's game. There's things where he's a big Lundqvist fan, and you see there's things he took from Lundqvist. And so Jake's a bit of both a tactician and historian in the way he looks at other goalies. And one thing, there's some guys, and Luds, I'd be curious what comes to mind for you. There's some goalies in the NHL who care about the guy at the other end of the ice. There's other guys who are completely blank-brained and have no idea what's happening beyond the blue line in front of them. Jake is a guy who very much cares about about the other guy on the other ice and being better than him that night.
Sean, I'm wondering, let's switch over to Vasilevsky. Yeah. And he's had this trait, and Cooper's talked about it a lot. And, there's games where he gives up 6-7 goals in a game and he doesn't come out. And he wants to play and always be on the ice. How difficult is a conversation is that to have with that kind of a goaltender? And when doesn't it have to come into play at some point, just as far as, because we talk about goalies now only playing 50, 55 games a year. And this is their guy. And is it because he's had so much success, or how do you think those conversations go, and what really works with a guy like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we also saw a bit of the wear down from Vasilevsky. Had 3 straight runs to the Cup final. The first year after they went to the Cup final 3 years in a row, he started to struggle. Like we saw some of the wear and tear that happened with him. And I don't know if it's a John Cooper conversation or a Julian Breezeball conversation, but effectively someone has to come in and be the adult in the room on this, basically, to come in and basically with Vasilevsky be like, okay, it's the same thing the Stars do with Oettinger, where they don't give him any say in when he's going to play, right? They're like, if we do that, he'll play every single game. So it's become, you come in and you have that, there's nothing against who you are. You're going to be our guy, but we want you to be that guy for 25 games in the spring. And that's not an easy conversation, but John Cooper, and I think that's with what the stature John Cooper has and earned in the time in Tampa. It's not like it's a coach who's new there and the goalie or the player's been there longer. So I think Cooper has at least that power to go in, and it's not it's not one of these other situations where a coach, like with the coaching turnover, right? John Cooper and Jared Bednar are one of the few coaches in the NHL who have been there probably just as long or longer than most of their roster. Most NHL coaches, their roster has there's a lot of guys who have been there longer than them. Cooper holds that long-term proof of life that his voice means something, and I think that helps in this situation.
Yeah, I would assume that it helps also. I mean, because we talked about Patrick before. Patrick Waugh, he'd come in and he basically hands the calendar in. Here's the games I'm going to play and the ones I'm not going to play. But I guess that's when you have some skins on the wall. Maybe it's an easier conversation with a guy like Jake because he hasn't had that kind of success yet.
Yeah, very true.
I thought Matt Duchene at practice yesterday had an interesting take on scouting goalies, and he was specifically asked about Vasilevsky, and he kind of said, I haven't seen him enough. He's not in our conference. He wasn't here when the Stars and the Lightning were in the same division during that shortened COVID post-lockout down year. But he did talk about how he prepares for a visiting goalie or an opposing goalie, and it's fascinating.
I do the same thing every game. Whether it's a goalie I've played before or not, I sit with Reeser and watch. Probably we take about 10 minutes and go through everything I want to see, and I'm pretty dialed in and detailed on that because I want to know what I'm doing if I don't have time to make a decision myself. And every goalie, the goalies nowadays, I mean, they're so technically sound. Back in the day, there used to be, okay, you do this on this guy, it's in every time. Now you're just trying to make the best decision each time. So, but after a game, every now and then, I'll go to him and I'll get one because of our scouting report. So, we'll dial in on him tomorrow and just like every other game.
So think about that, Luds. He doesn't. I love the answer of every now and then we get one, but if he doesn't have time to think for himself, which happens in a game, they already has something planned of this is where I go if I can't look and see something different.
I don't think you want to go with a preconceived notion because then you're kind of frozen. You're thinking of one thing and you don't know where the goaltender is going to be all the time. And it's kind of, I got a question again for Sean on kind of on the other side. Do goaltenders study when they know that pretty much you have an idea if it goes to a shootout, who the shooters are going to be, top 4 or 5? Do goaltenders study that kind of stuff, or they don't want that kind of information either? More reaction, do you think, Sean?
It depends on the goalie. I've spoken to there's Ben Bishop was one of the studied film more than any goalie I've ever covered. Bish was really big on knowing where all these shooters are and tendencies. And then there's some guys who want that. There's some that are way more reactive, and then there's some guys who will, if it gets to that shootout situation. I spoke to Cam Talbot about this recently. Cam Talbot doesn't likes to have if the team ever gets to shootout, he likes the goalie coach to give him a quick note on who the guys are. But it's something where he doesn't want it in the game because a shootout is different than a breakaway or anything like that. So it varies by goalie. But one of the things just to think about, when you're not thinking, and it's the spot where Vasilevsky. So while he was talking, I went and pulled up because I have the data for it. So in Vasilevsky's to give you an idea for Vasilevsky, Andre Vasilevsky in his last 10 games has faced 126 shots along the ice. There's only been 2 goals scored of 126 shots on anything below 12 inches in the last 10 games against Andre Vasilevsky. So I don't know exactly what Jeff Reese told them, but you talk about programming, you get any chance at all, you need to make sure that puck is up at least 15, 16 inches off the ice because that's the case with Vasilevsky. Nothing is getting in down low.
Well, Sean, you're the analytics guy here, and I'm starting to try to dig into it a little bit. But are there analytically when there are guys that are going in the shootouts where they typically shoot more often than not, that kind of information would be given to the goaltender if he wanted it?
Yeah, it happens. The other issue with shootouts, though, is they don't happen as much as they used to, right? With the 3-on-3, it's been less and less.
Thankfully.
So there's not nearly as much of a sample size, too. There's some things of what some guys like to do and everything like that. But like we talked about of Evgeny Dadonov being pretty good on penalty shots the other day. There is history of what he's done on penalty shots, but if you're a coach and you're prepping for him, you don't need to put too much information out there. You don't need to overload on so many of the what ifs. And I think that's the balance when you're figuring out where and how to use all this data is you want it to be actionable, but you don't want it to be something that impacts you too much the other way where you overthink it, especially as a player.
All right, Luds, I want to break down this matchup a little bit. Stars versus the Lightning. You mentioned to me earlier today that you said there are a lot of similarities. What are you seeing when you look at these two teams?
When I going through this, and it started when I was thinking about Miro, and I went, well, they got a Miro over there too. Victor Hedman's pretty damn good, and then you got Kucherov, and you can go ahead and look on this side, and you talk about the Duchene line, and then they got Point, and so I look at that. down the middle of the ice. I just see similarities there. Then I started looking, and I'm like, okay, well, the goals against Dallas is second, and Tampa's 10th, and it's a fraction, Then there's the goals for per 60, which I still don't know what the hell that means. But anyway, they're both at exactly 2.9. Okay. Then there's the goals against, and Dallas is at 1.9, I think it is, and Tampa's at 2. So there's just, to me, it looks like, and this is all 5-on-5. So it comes down to me as probably special teams, and then you got the goaltenders you talk about, 2 great goaltenders. And I just looked and I'm like, how many things can be so similar in 2 teams? But there is one, like Tampa, both of these teams are 31st and 32nd. That's worst, by the way, in hits. So there's not a lot of physicality that's probably going to go on in this game. But
you watch, there'll be 100 penalty minutes tonight.
Yeah, they're probably cool. I hope so. But and the thing is Tampa is in the top 5 in giveaways, in their own zone. So maybe that's an opportunity for Dallas there. But I think just sometimes, obviously goaltending, the special teams, but the special teams battle may be important tonight.
Well, that's an interesting one. Sean, let's take a look at the Tampa Bay lineup, because the big question was, how is this group going to handle losing Steven Stamkos? Well, they signed Jake Guentzel. They won that free agent battle because there are a bunch of teams that wanted his services. And that top line, Guentzel, Point, Kucherov, as Luddy said, very, very accomplished, skillful. They're dangerous. Mm-hmm. After that, look, Cam Atkinson, once thought of as a pretty, up-and-coming player, didn't work out with the Flyers after a good career with Columbus, but I think Cirelli has been a very good middle, second center or so. You mentioned Hagel, Luds, the other day. But if you look at the bottom of it, it's a lot of guys. Obviously we know Glendening, and we've seen Gergensons in Buffalo for a long time, and Essimon's been around. But there's some guys that you may not be that familiar with. What do you think of this forward group for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yeah, there's a reason that you look at the depth of that forward group, and there's a reason that Nikita Kucherov is going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation every year. You need just that team you need someone to do what Kucherov does with the depth of that team. And that's not saying it's bad depth. It's obviously in Dallas, we know very well what Glendening does and things like that. But you go through and it's a lineup of guys they're going to work hard. In Eyssimont, Glendening, a Gergensons, right? All good, hard working players, but it's not a team that has nearly the depth and the finishing and everything like they've had in the past. And it's why what Kucherov does right now is so vital to that team's success. And you have to work hard against this team, because that's the only way their third and fourth lines are going to hurt you is if they outwork you. And I think that's an important thing to remember.
I thought, Luds, that it was a little interesting when I looked at the breakdown. One of the things I skim at when we get the game notes every day for a game is the special teams and how it breaks out between home and road. Because the Stars' power play has been dreadful at home, but it's actually been quite good on the road. And interestingly enough, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have the second best power play rating in the NHL, actually are going through some of those similar struggles. What gives them when that happens?
Well, I think on the road, for Dallas, they had that one big game against Boston.
That helps.
That helps bring up your road record. You know what? I think sometimes it's easier for the power play to get on track on the road, only because if it doesn't work the first one or two, the fans may start getting on you, regardless of how good you're supposed to be. So I think there's less pressure from external pressure when you're on the road. So to me, that's the easiest thing. And I think you try to dumb things down a little bit. And I think you have a tendency when you're at home to put on a show a little bit for the fans once in a while, and that extra pass here and there.
Look at this number. So the Stars are 32nd. That's worst in the league at power play at home, 2 for 27. They're 7 for 29 on the road. That's a difference between 7% and 24%. So they're 12th best on the road. The Lightning have the 30th best home power play at 9%, 2 for 22. And they have the 5th best on the road, 29% at 10 of 34. You talk about similarities. It really is quite amazing.
I think we're looking at a 2-2 going to a 3-on-3 tonight.
Yeah, could very well be.
I have a theory on the home versus road thing. This is just something that popped in mind while you're bringing it up. You think there's something to, and Luds, I wonder if you think, what do you think about this? There's something to, when you're at home, you get the last change. You're supposed to be getting the ideal matchup the entire 60 minutes at a home game. And so when all of a sudden you get the power play, it's an advantage, but you've technically had the advantage all night. And so when you're on the road and you have to do the last change, and as a coach you're playing the matchup game, all of a sudden that power play, you talked about working hard and simplifying, but it also all of a sudden becomes, it's one of the few spots where you actually steal the tactical advantage. And I wonder if there's something to that, and I don't know if there's anything more. It's just a theory I had while Owen was talking about the split on that.
Well, hold on. You mentioned power play. John, let's play the power play clip from Pete DeBoer. He was asked about the power play not being great and being a little too cute in the last game. And the question was, how do you balance allowing for creativity on the power play and being, as Luddy likes to say, a little too soft?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right? I think it always starts with an attack mindset, and then once you attack, recover, get the penalty kill out of their structure, then your skill can take over. But if you try and outskill a structured penalty kill before you attack, it looks like it did the other night.
Sounds like things you've been saying all season so far.
Yeah, and for me, it's quick puck movement. And again, I try to. You got a lot of young players when guys that have the puck and they're skating up the wall and heading towards their defenseman, for instance, and then they move it to the defenseman. Well, that you're bringing all the penalty killers that direction. So I guess it'd be more a little misdirection. But instead of just stopping, start to go back down towards the goal line, then give it to the defenseman, because now you've moved the penalty killers now start to have to go down, and so it gives you a little more time. But I think that if you've made 3-4 passes and you haven't got the puck to the net, you should know that. They should know that as a group. Let's get one to the net. Let's try to break their coverage down, because obviously their coverage is good because we can't get anything through. So let's try to change. And it's easier said than done. But I think when you have a lot of skilled guys out there, like both of these teams do, you know what Kucherov and Pointer are going to be doing tonight. You know exactly what they're trying for, right? And I think Dallas, I don't know if Dallas is as predictable as those guys for that one particular play that they use, but I just love it when Miro gets the puck back at the point or whoever he's playing with, and pucks go to the net. And then there's a scramble. And once there's a scramble and you recover the puck, now you make your 1-2 passes and you get it back going to the net again, because you try to get the penalty killers to be moving away from the net when the puck is going towards the net, with, obviously everybody being on the same page.
Sean, I want to ask you a question about the lineup, but let's look at the cards first. We'll start with, let's just quickly go through them. The defense for the Lightning, just as we saw. Again, there's Victor Hedman. They reintegrated Ryan McDonough. Eric Chernak solid. They brought in J.J. Moser, some little bit lesser knowns on their third pairing. Now look at the Stars' D pairings, if you would, John. And they went big because of Nils Lundqvist's injury. They're back to Heiskanen and Lindell at the top group. I think the team really likes this 6. That's nothing against Nils Lundqvist, but I think if you have Smith and Dumba out there, that's probably the way it's going to look. If you get the righty and Lundqvist back, maybe they break that up. But let's look at the forward group. And Sean, this is where my question comes in, and a comment from Pete DeBoer that I want your thoughts on, because Colin Blackwell is a healthy scratch yet again. And here's what he had to say about it yesterday.
He's part of our 22 guys. I think Colin, we took him out. We talked about keeping everybody involved. I think we took him out, and I think, what's happened is that fourth line's just played really well. I think Back's come in and really made a statement, both 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill, and he's a big body. He's versatile. He's got good reach. He can play center or wing. Just brings a lot of things to the table, and he's made it really hard for us to take him out. And Sam Steele and Dadonov are pretty much veteran guys. So that's just a numbers thing, but with how busy our schedule is getting, he's going to get a chance to get back in there again.
I believe that, Sean, that he will get back in. This will be his 4th consecutive healthy scratch, Blackwell. But what it really says is how well Oscar Beck has been improving this season, because he's forced the coaches to keep him in the lineup.
It's also interesting for me to hear him use the word Steele as a veteran guy. Like, that's credit to Sam Steele, right? Like, I don't know remember when Sam Steele signed with the Stars, it was a youngish player that you could see where he's going to go. And the fact that he's locked himself as a veteran in Pete DeBoer's mind is pretty noteworthy to me too. And you're right, it is a reflection of what Beck's done and everything like that. The other thing that I give credit to Colin Blackwell on this at some point is, like, I think Colin Blackwell, if he plays the next game or he doesn't play for 5 more games, I think Colin Blackwell is going to play the same game when he goes back in, which is what is the most important part about this Stars fourth line, where and Beck is basically effectively starting to prove that. We didn't know that before, and he's gone and done that. And you have the luxury of knowing that Blackwell is a reliable guy that can step in when needed. So I think it's not, there's no negative reflections here at all for me on this. This is all positive all the way around, and that's the mark of a well-built roster and team right now too when it comes to the forward.
Luddy with the last word here as we're almost out of time. That group of four lines on the road against a good Tampa team, this is, I think, the way the coaching staff really wants it to shake out.
Yeah, it's going to be a good test tonight. It'll be curious in the first 5 minutes and see how Cooper wants to, who does he want to put that top line against? And, now he's got the Duchesne line, and if the other, if the Hintz line is going, we'll see how he wants to deploy his people. And then it'll also be interesting to see what Dallas is trying to do to get who against who as far as getting them on the top line. So, and that's what always surprised me about the pairings, every once in a while. And so are you going to keep on shuffling things and try to get Essa, obviously, and Miro out there against, their top line. So we'll see how that, if they change that up.
All right. Should be a fun one tonight. We'll be watching on Victory Plus. Sam will be watching from Amalie Arena. I'm sure he'll be bouncing off the walls when he joins us in the post-game show. Check it right after the game. Come join us. Sean, Luddy, and I will be breaking it all down. We'll do your chats and then say hi to Sam at the end. All right, that's it for our pregame show. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game.
I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.